We are live, everybody, for another JM Sports Show, live from my studios, as you can see. It's empty classroom. That is the extent of my studios when I can stream anywhere and anytime, and it is the quietest spot to stream for now. I want to thank people as they stream on in. I just shared it on my Twitter, jmoney18c. We have a lot to discuss after a very busy sports weekend. I was talking to you guys on Friday with the Conor McGregor news. Masters had only one round had been completed, and the second round was just getting underway. We still didn't have a whole lot of NBA games. The NBA playoff picture is more clear. So we're going to dive into all of that today, as well as Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese Babe Ruth. But I want to start with the Masters because the last couple of Masters have been interesting because they're we're kind of in this era now where I think we're really starting to realize Tiger Woods is done. And coming into the Masters, a lot of people had very, very high expectations of Tiger Woods, some even going as far as to think he would win it. And honestly, that's what I wanted to see. I was honestly cheering for Tiger Woods, but after a rough first couple rounds, he did make the cut. But placed 32nd, was one overall, was done yesterday, well before it even really got started, if you think about it. And the drama came later with Patrick Reed going on to win it, the 27-year-old Texan. Congratulations on winning your first major. Now, my thing is, and I was listening to Fox Sports Radio last night, just after the Masters had ended. And my thing is, they brought up a good point, and that is in sports. And I kind of thought about this a little bit. In sports, generally about every decade and a half, you have one star that dominates that sport. And there's other players too. It's not like there's just one guy and everyone else is bad. Don't get me wrong. I know there's other stars. But in golf, there was Tiger Woods. And you either loved Tiger Woods, like a lot of people did, or you hated Tiger Woods because maybe you knew about some of the, not obviously the marriage stuff because that didn't come out later. And pretty much after that incident, which was November 2008, I don't believe he's won a major since then. And he's only won a couple of tour things, and he's been injured the last few years. But for a long time, there was stuff that he was kind of a jerk to fans or that he was a bit cold to other golfers. But whatever the case may be, he was still dominant, and he was still, a great, great player. And before him, you had, back in the day, Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Arnold Palmer. And those are kind of the Mount Rushmore, so to speak, of golf. You had, in basketball, you've had in the 60s, it was Bill Russell. And in the 70s, it was Kareem. And in the 80s, it was Magic and Bird. And in the 90s, it was Jordan. And in the 2000s, it was Kobe and LeBron. And in the 2010s, it's been all LeBron. And you kind of look for that star. And a lot of people are like, hate on these stars, but you need them. You need them to make the games entertaining. You need a LeBron James. You need a Tom Brady. In football, it was Tom Brady. Before him, it was, Elway and Montana and Young and Staubach way back in the day, and Bart Starr back in the day. You need a dominant player and somebody who's a bit controversial. Tom Brady's controversial. You bring up the Flakegate. You bring up the thing that he kind of is perceived, at least early in his career, as a bit of a pretty boy. Long hair. He's married to a supermodel. He seems to get what he wants. LeBron James, people think he gets calls. He may well. I honestly, you don't want to see the game, take on like a be, where it's not working and where calls are being made to where it's skewing the results. But it's a fact that star players get calls. LeBron James gets calls that in games that, a random player, Larry Nance, doesn't get. LeBron James gets calls that Goran Dragic, as good as he is, doesn't get, because he's LeBron. LeBron's a superstar. Superstars get that kind of treatment because the ratings are better. It's quite simple as that. The ratings are better for these players, and the NBA and all other leagues survive off ratings. So the Masters ratings were up when Tiger Woods was competitive, and I haven't seen them for yesterday afternoon. I think Masters Sunday generally is popular, but I can't imagine they would be, any bigger because Tiger Woods was out. But anyway, nothing to take away from Patrick Reed, who finished 15 under. Jordan Spieth was great. Just the last couple holes, just had a couple of bad shots that, he was 2 strokes off. Finished third. You had, and who finished second? 14 under. It was because Spieth finished 13 under, and he was second for the longest time. Ricky Fowler finished second with 14 under par. So, you look at the way golf is. Golf is, a sport that needs a star. Basketball is a sport that needs a star. Football, baseball. And baseball, I'm going to get to the future, a star in the making. Maybe in baseball right now it's Trout and Bryce Harper, and, you kind of, with some team sports, you have a franchise. The Yankees. When the Yankees do well, baseball does well. In the NFL, when the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, the ratings are higher. They've set records for their ratings. When when various teams are in there, you get a thing where, the ratings go up or down because there's certain teams that are more popular. They're more polarizing. And, as much as we hate polarization, especially in this time in this country, in sports it works out because it doesn't really lead to anything serious, but it still adds to the entertainment value of the event. If the team, or in the case of golf, like an individual sport, if the athlete is controversial, if they're drawing in the eyeballs, either people really, really wanting to see him win, like I think a lot of people were with Tiger Woods yesterday, or really, really wanting to see him lose, like a lot of people probably do. Same goes for LeBron James. So I think there's a lot of that in the sports world with stars. Now, here's an example of a sport with a star, and we talked about this Friday with UFC, Conor McGregor. We don't know when he's returning. Now, an interesting tidbit came out, and I take it with a grain of salt just because I don't see it happening. But Floyd Mayweather said, if I were to come back, I would to come back in the octagon. Now, I believe if he does come back, he'll probably be in the octagon. I just don't see any reason for him to go back to the ring. The octagon would be a lot of money. People aren't going to see want to watch another boxing match between McGregor and Mayweather. They might want to see it, Mayweather-McGregor in the octagon, a rematch with UFC rules. And it might be interesting to see how one of the most talented boxers of all time, and certainly the greatest in the last 2 decades, would do in an octagon if you gave him a couple of months to learn kicks and all that. So, I think you want stars, you want people like that, and you want, for the higher ratings. And prior to this incident with Conor McGregor, I think unless you were a very diehard UFC fan, you didn't know there was a fight this weekend, which, by the way, Khabib won. He beat Ian Quinta by a decision to get the lightweight belt. And now he wants to fight Conor, and we're not sure about what Conor's legal situation is going to be. And, it's still very much up in the air. I'm not one of those people that's saying it's fake or anything. I think they expected Conor to show up. I think, considering it was belt, I just don't think they expected it to be like, I don't think they're going to risk fighters getting hurt. I don't think you're going to see him get charged. I think anyone who thinks that is kind of an idiot. I mean, there's a lot of people that are being idiots about this and saying, oh, it's fake. It's not. They're not going to, the police aren't going to waste their time on a fake incident if they know it's fake. They're not going to be suckered into that. I would hope not. I mean, you never know. But my gut tells me, yeah, it was probably, kind of anticipated that Conor would show up. They just didn't know he would go as far as he did in throwing a dolly and a barricade into a bus and injuring fighters. And UFC 223 got a lot of backlash from UFC fans for the people who support the product, no matter who's fighting, the UFC diehards. And they thought it should have been like a 25% rate cut because 25% of the fights were canceled. And a bunch of fights were changed. You got fights changed at the last minute, which usually means they're not as good. So, I think fans were upset, and it was just overall a bad weekend for the UFC. Now, we also have, let's cover Ohtani, Shohei Ohtani. A lighter topic than the disastrous weekend, in my opinion, UFC just had, at least in terms of the Conor incident. I think the Floyd news is good news, and that's about it. But Shohei Ohtani, if you do not know, and you probably know at this point, is a baseball player. He came from Japan, and he was signed by the Angels this offseason. There was a huge bidding war to get him. And in a quiet offseason, Ohtani was the biggest name, other than Stanton, to change places. Other than the Stanton trade to the Yankees, Shohei Ohtani was the biggest show of the offseason. And in spring training, he struggled. He struggled with his command. He had something like a 27 ERA. He was walking guys. Hitting-wise, he was okay. Nothing like to write home about, but since the regular season's started, he has turned it on. He has hit 3 home runs. In his debut 2 weeks ago now, or a week and 8 days ago now, on April 1st, April Fool's Day, Easter, he pitched 6 solid innings. He was good. He got the win. Yesterday, he tops it. He goes 6 1/3 perfect, and then he gives up a hit eventually in the 7th inning. He finished the 7th inning. That's it. 7 innings. He strikes out 12, gives up a hit, a walk, and gets the win. 12 strikeouts. That's the number I'm really looking at. Perfect game through 6 1/3 is also amazing. Honestly, it would have been awesome if he had been able to finish out that perfect game. And unfortunately, it wasn't. But a 12 strikeout performance, the hype is real with Ohtani. Now, he gets the day off today. They're going to give him days off day before and day after he starts. And then he'll DH those 5 days, and then, or 4 days, have 2 days off and 1 day to pitch. That's currently his schedule. Socha has said that maybe later on in the year he might be able to DH, either a day before or a day immediately after a start. But for now, they're easing him into it. But what a week from Shohei Ohtani. And he's kind of a star baseball needs, because baseball, and ironically, it's his teammate that's the biggest star, Mike Trout. You have Stanton up in with the Yankees, who's kind of struggling right now, and you have Bryce Harper, who's doing really, really well in Washington with 6 home runs, but Harper hasn't been able to stay healthy. So, baseball kind of needs that star. Maybe it'll be Ohtani. He's kind of that nice guy, though. I kind of feel like if it's going to be the star, the polarizing star, that's Bryce Harper, because Harper certainly creates a lot of controversy with the bat flips and with the hair and with all that. But Ohtani, congratulations on that great performance. Now we also have NBA standings to get to. The season ends in just a couple of days. Here we are. Today there's a few games, but playoff tickets are being punched. The seeds, I believe, I'm just looking at the rating standard. All right. The Eastern Conference is set except for the standings. Right now, though, the Raptors are the 1 seed, and they've clinched the 1 seed. The Celtics are the 2 seed. They've clinched. But like I said, on Friday's show, Kyrie Irving's done for the season. The 76ers are the 3 seed, a game ahead of the 4 seed Cavs, but the Sixers have won 14 straight. I just want to let that sink in. The Philadelphia 76ers, a team that the last 3 to 4 seasons, have been mired in not mediocrity, but terrible. Worst team in basketball. Have won 50 games. They won 14 in a row and are currently the 3 seed and very likely to clinch the 3 seed, in my opinion, for the playoffs. The 3 seed. And very likely to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Very likely. Because the Celtics aren't going to be a problem at this point. They'll probably win their first round. They probably have the talent to beat, who's the 7th seed currently. Sixers play the Hawks tomorrow and the Bucks on Wednesday. They should beat the Hawks. The Bucks are the current 7 seed, but just have a 1-game lead on the Wizards. Although the Wizards have lost 4 in a row themselves and appear, I wouldn't say content, but appear likely just to have to settle for the 8th seed. And then the Bucks are the 7th seed, and they have an identical record to the Heat, or the 6th seed. So the Bucks could, if they finish with a better record than the Heat, go up to the 6th seed. But if they finish with the same record, or obviously worse record, they would be the 7th. And then you have the Pacers at 5. And they're a game and a half out of the – yes, there's 2 games left in this regular season. So the seedings are almost set. But I'm looking at the 76ers. And really, the final standings, to me, they're almost set in the West as well. The Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Right now, the Nuggets are on the outside looking in on a tiebreaker, so they certainly would need to finish with a better record than the Timberwolves to get in, so we'll have to look at that. But that's the 8th seed, and they're likely to get beaten badly in the first round. So I'm looking at the playoff picture. I'm looking at the 76ers in the East. Who would they play right now? Well, they would start with the Heat. The Heat are a good team, not a great team. I think they could beat the Heat. Celtics would start with the Bucks. I think it's an intriguing series now that Kyrie's out, but I still think the Celtics, even without Kyrie, can beat the Bucks. I think it'll be a very. I guess that series would go 6 or 7 games. Honestly, I think the Bucks have the talent with Giannis and Jabari and all them to take them the distance. But I think ultimately the Celtics home court advantage would win that series, and then they would play each other in the conference. What is it? Conference semis. And the Raptors would beat the Wizards, and then the Cavs and Pacers. I think the Cavs would beat Oladipo and the Pacers. So, I mean, there's still a chance with a game left, with a game lead and 2 games left, that they slip to the 4 seed and even to the 5 seed. If the Pacers were to win both games, again, I think these seedings are likely to stay put at this point. You might see a 3-4 switch again with the Cavs. Cavs play the Knicks and the Knicks. So the Cavs should win both games. You never know, though. LeBron might prefer the 4 seed than playing the Pacers in the first round. And then they would play the Raptors. And honestly, I think even as a 4 seed, the Cavs can beat a 1 seed Raptors. So then I think you'd very well see, with the 76ers beating the injured Celtics, Cavs, Sixers, Eastern Conference Finals. And that would be very cool if we saw that for a team that last year, in the last few years, has been so terrible. So the process has indeed been fulfilled. So that's the process, right? And they would get Embiid back. So looking pretty good if you're a 76ers fan. Looking pretty good for the city of Philly, but who already has this year a Super Bowl ring with the Eagles, an NCAA basketball ring with Villanova. I'm not saying the Sixers are going to win it all. I'm just saying imagine if they did. But imagine if they did, though. Kind of sweet to dream if you're a Philadelphia sports fan. But that's about it. That's about it for our show. I want to thank people who tuned in. I want to thank everyone. Have a good one. If you're watching this later or watching it now, follow me on Twitter at jmoney18c. Subscribe to me here on YouTube. I want to thank everyone on this stream, and have a good one.